It's time to talk sports, time for the show. When you hear this song on the radio, it's time to tune in, better act fast. Let me get that potograph. Potograph, Sports Talk Radio. Starting now.
Let's go. What's up, everybody, and welcome to episode 177 of Let Me Get That Potograph. As always, my name is Drew, the DH, and joining me, my awesome co-host, Mr. Scott Rappaport. What's up, dude?
Oh, what's going on, Drew? How you feeling?
Feeling better. A little bit better.
Right.
Yeah.
So we took last week off because Drew had a little surgery done, and he thought he was going to be okay.
Yeah.
But, like those things go.
Yeah.
No, that didn't happen.
Far from okay last week.
Yeah. So, yes, we took last week off, but that kind of worked out because we've gotten a lot more insight on some of the things we were going to talk about last week. And obviously, things have happened over the weekend and earlier this week that we are going to be talking about, which we would have talked about this week anyway.
Yeah.
So,
let's dive right into it, man.
So, what do we got on tap, Drew?
Well, we got a lot to talk about today, but I figure we start off with the NBA All-Star Game. All-Star Weekend just happened. Normally, or at least the last couple of years, pretty forgettable. Not many people paid attention, if any. More people would go on social media and complain than actually watch anything.
Yeah.
But this weekend, a little bit different.
Yeah, but I will say before we get to the little bit different stuff, the game itself was, don't get me wrong, the All-Star Game is always like a ridiculously high-scoring event. Nobody ever plays defense and all that kind of stuff. But this was just, I don't know, it was unwatchable. No,
it was, and I loved Nikola Jokic's comment before. He said before the game started, he's like, "This isn't my type of game." He's like, "So don't expect me to do good." And he ended up with like 4 points, 8 rebounds, like 6 assists because he's not that flashy. I'm gonna take the ball down and just chuck something up all the time. You had Damian Lillard taking a half-court 3-pointer just because.
Yeah,
of course he did it. But
and then you got guys like Tatum who seem to take it seriously and put up 55 points.
Yeah, him and Brown, they seem to relish in playing each other. Tatum putting up 55, Brown putting up, I think, 38 or 39, something like that.
And I understand the aspect of like, hey, this is an exhibition game. We don't want to go out there and kill ourselves and get hurt because the rest of the season, still has to be played and things like that. So, like, I get that. But at least make it look like you're trying to play defense.
Right. No, when both teams almost put up 200. I know NBA basketball games are high scoring. I still struggle when I go to place bets looking at the over-unders being at 230 and it being a really smart idea. Like, that's just weird to me as someone that grew up in the late 90s, early 2000s, if both teams hit over 100, it was like, wow. Like, okay. Yeah. They were on.
What was the over-under line on the All-Star Game?
Oh, God, I don't know. Probably 400. It's got to be 350. It was definitely 350 plus. Easy.
Yeah, which is just absolutely ridiculous. And don't get me wrong, I love high scoring. I love, all that kind of stuff. But
not when there's no defense.
Exactly.
Standing around. Like,
exactly, and that's my biggest issue with it.
And back in the day, growing up as a kid watching the All-Star Game. Now, granted, the All-Star Game's always been a little less defense, but you had people. I think back to when LeBron came into the league and he made his first All-Star Game. Him matching up against Kobe, and they would do those one-on-one battles. Like, you'd at least get a couple minutes where legends are going at each other and trying hard to, attack each other. This was just, let's dribble up the court, throw a flashy alley-oop, no one trying to block it, no one looking around. The no-look passes are cool, but when there's not one hand in the lane trying to take the ball, how great is that pass?
No, that's true. I grew up with the traditional East-West format for the All-Star Game. where you had Jordan and Larry Bird teamed up together against, Magic Johnson and, Karl Malone and Stockton and, and those guys. And it's like, this is like, I'm not a fan. I'd rather have it East-West than have the whole draft thing.
I would love to see the East-West just for the simple fact I'd like to see how many points the West would put up against the East right now.
Yeah.
But I also think you'd have more competition. I think that people might play a little bit harder and you would have these matchups that you don't see. I really don't like the team captain draft format, although I will say I did like it this year for my bank account because betting on Giannis to hit the under on his points was a guarantee.
Yep.
And thank you for playing 2 minutes and leaving, buddy. I appreciate that.
I'm going to tell you, I lost a massive parlay on the Bucks-Bulls game before the All-Star break because Giannis got hurt.
Yep.
It would have been better for me if he hadn't have played.
Right, yeah, because then they would have just dropped the parlay from 5 to 4 legs.
Exactly.
Or whatever. Yeah.
It would have voided out his line, and everything would have been great. I literally hit, I think it was like 12 legs in the parlay.
Oh.
And I hit all of them except for the 2 legs involving Giannis.
Yeah, which he would have probably easily hit against the Bulls.
And that's why I think it was like 30, 30 plus points, and I think it was like 8 plus rebounds or something like that.
Yeah, that's easy.
Against the Bulls, yes. And it just killed me. Now, but here's the other question. The captains of the team, it's basically a popularity contest.
Oh, 100.
And I mean, when was the last time that it wasn't LeBron and Giannis?
I couldn't tell you. I honestly couldn't tell you. And that comes for 2 reasons. One, I don't pay that much attention to the game. I'm more interested in the Saturday night stuff, the skills
competition,
like the 3-point skills, slam dunk, things like that, which we'll touch on in just a few, obviously. Then the game, like the game, I don't know it. As soon as it became like the Pro Bowl with flags, like that, it's just I don't want to watch it. Like it's not fun. Like I already know these guys are insanely talented. I already know that Ja Morant can throw insane behind the back, no look passes, blah, blah, blah. I already know Tatum can score 55 if he wants to. I don't need to see it with a bunch of guys just standing around.
Yeah, I totally get that. And I mean, let's be honest, even before they took the real football out of the Pro Bowl, when was the last time you actually watched the Pro Bowl?
Right. No, I agree. But the sad thing is when you look at players and we look back on retired players, one of the things they always go to is all NBA teams, championships, your individual accolades, and then all-star accomplishments.
Yeah.
Are they really accomplishments anymore?
No, they're really not. And frankly, you know what I would love to see? So during the All-Star weekend, we have this different skills competitions. We've got the futures games. You've got the main All-Star game.
Yeah.
You know what I would love to see? And this would be entertaining as hell if the NBA could put this together. In addition to all of that, I'd like to add something to it.
Sure.
I would like to see a Hall of Fame game.
No, that would be cool.
You get Hall of Famers who, and I'm sure they'll be willing. And don't get me wrong, it'll be a slower game. It'll be a game where, there's not going to be a lot of defense played and things like that because these guys are older. You may see a 70-year-old guy out on the court.
I don't know. Charles Oakley, if he got pulled on the team, you might see Oakley try and body somebody still.
No, that's true. And I think who would be the oldest guy that would probably get out? Is Robert Parrish still alive?
I don't know.
Yeah, if he's still, I'm sure he would go.
Oh, yeah.
But I would love to see a Hall of Fame game where you take Hall of Fame players, put them back out on the court, and you could do it as a draft.
Yeah.
There's no question about that. You'd have like MJ and Magic could be the captain's draft. Or if you really want to do it, you get a couple of guys that wouldn't necessarily play but would manage the team. So you'd get like Kareem and maybe Jerry West.
Yeah.
To come and manage and draft and let the guys who are in their 40s, 50s and 60s play the game. That would be a lot of fun to watch. I think you'd sell more tickets to that than you would for the normal All-Star game.
No, I agree. I think that would be awesome. I mean, it can't get any worse. I mean, for God's sakes, we're now drafting the starters as our last 5 people because we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings with them being picked last. I mean, these are guys making max contracts, and we're worried about their feelings on being picked last in an All-Star game. It's become so diluted and so absurd.
Well, they should do what they do in the NFL draft. Is they should draft in order, whatever order you want, pick the starters first or whatever, and then pick the others. But the guy who's drafted last gets a car.
Yeah.
How many guys would be fighting? Like when you get towards the last 3 or 4 guys, like no, don't pick me. How many of these guys would be out there doing that?
I know it would be a lot more interesting. There's a ton of things you could do to spice this up. It's just from a hobby standpoint, the All-Star game, it used to be something that was a major accolade. That was something to hang your cap on. And it was something that, let's be honest, a lot of guys' careers are defined by All-Star games, All-NBA teams, and individual accolades because they didn't win championships.
No, but think about this, though. The All-NBA team accolades are, I think...
Those are legit.
Those are legit. Those are well-earned because that is a season-long...
Right.
award that they're giving out to the top guys in their positions in the league. I mean, that is well earned.
Absolutely.
I don't put that.
I'm just saying when you look at a Hall of Famer, that's what you see. You see their titles, their individual accolades, All NBA, and then All-Star game stuff. And
I don't know if they count.
I just don't think it matters anymore.
But no, but that's the thing. I don't think they count their All-Star game statistics within that, but what they do count though is the All-Star game appearances.
Yes,
and that's fine. That's okay. Hey, this guy was selected as an All-Star 18 times. Okay, awesome. I'm all for that. But I don't think they're counting all right, well, he averaged 18 points a game in the All-Star game.
No. I'm just saying I just saw, they've got the NBA basketball Hall of Fame voting and stuff like that coming up, and Dwayne Wade had made the cut compared to other people. And you look at his accolades, it goes past titles. It's 13 or 14 All-Star game appearances. And I saw that and I was like, wow, because that was back when the All-Star game actually meant something. Yeah. And I was like, that's impressive because you looked at Dirk and everyone else and he blew him out of the water. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. But then I'm thinking about nowadays, okay, if Ja Morant makes 15 All-Star games, is it really that big of a deal as compared to what it was 20 years ago?
No. I think in some ways it isn't. So it depends on how many he winds up getting into as a starter. Because remember, the starters are voted on by the fans.
Right.
So I don't look at that as much as I look at the overall selections, because I'd rather see a guy who does not get voted in as a starter, but still makes 10 All-Star games, All-Star, because he was voted on by the league and by, I think it's the coaches.
It's coaches, peers. There's a committee
that say, look, this guy was playing, so well for 10 years of his career that he was sent to the All-Star game. I would rather have that than the popularity contest that goes along with all the voting.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. One thing I did think was cool is all weekend long, you did see, if you were paying attention and looking around, you saw a lot of Panini America stuff. You could see their advertisements in the arena. You could see their name plastered everywhere. I thought that was awesome to see. From a hobby standpoint, at least. I know they were down there in full force. Jeff and everybody were all down there getting on card stuff. A lot of people might not know this. All-Star Games, one of the times when a lot of those guys, they can't get to sign your redemptions. That's when they sign them.
No, exactly.
Our weekend.
Now, we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but since you brought up the Panini, branding and all that kind of stuff that was all around the arena, I do want to point out that, did anybody notice the massive video billboard in Times Square when Top Series 1 came out?
Insane.
Absolutely insane. This is the benefit to having fanatics in the hobby, is they've got the money to do stuff like that.
Well, and you saw Michael Rubin came out with some very, very bold comments that I agreed with, saying that the hobby had been marketed by mistake and it had never actually been target marketed before, and that they're going to push hard. And you see that with Series 1 getting a billboard in Times Square. It's going to be interesting to see what this hobby can be with major marketing behind it. If they go that,
you want to know something interesting? And I'm gonna have to look this up. But there's a guy that I'm friends with on Facebook. I'd have to look up his name. But he's down in New Orleans. He's got a shop down there, and he actually does breaks live courtside from the Pelicans games.
Oh, awesome!
And I think they're put up there on the Jumbotron. So I'm not. We'll have to get some details on that. But this is the kind of stuff, and I don't know how much Panini has to do with that. I don't know how much it's just him and his relationship with the team. And I'll have to reach out to him and see if we can get him on there, or get him on to talk about that kind of stuff. But he's doing breaks on basically on the court at halftime.
That's awesome.
For the people in the arena.
I love it.
Yeah, and it's an awesome it's an awesome thing for the hobby. And I think we're going to start seeing a lot more of that kind of stuff in a lot of sports. And there's sports that you can get away with it. Basketball is one of them because halftime it exists. You could do it with football. You can do it with hockey in between periods. The one thing you can't do it with is baseball.
Yeah,
and it's because again the innings are too short. What you could do though is do it like in between a doubleheader. But doubleheaders are sometimes unpredictable because of weather. So you don't necessarily want to schedule that. But, or you can do a pregame one, but there wouldn't be as many people in the stands, for that. But I think you're going to start seeing a lot more of that. And I think it's going to be a really it's interesting time for the hobby and what kind of marketing and things like that are going to go into it over the next, 5 to 10 years.
Oh, absolutely. And we're going to touch on a lot of Series 1 and a lot of marketing and stuff behind that a little later on in the show. It's going to be very interesting to see. And those comments from Ruben, I was excited when I heard that. I thought it was cool. And I know this isn't something we talked about before the show, but, having a targeted push and a hard push of marketing towards the hobby, it's going to be interesting to see how it does and how it reflects on boxes and everything else. It's going to be interesting. But back to the All-Star game for a little bit, and we'll go on and move on to the entertainment of the weekend. Since Sunday, we'll just call it a glorified exhibition pickup game at whatever YMCA you wanted to go to. Saturday night, on the other hand, my God, if the hobby wasn't on fire and if people weren't on fire with Matt McClung and his G League entrance into the NBA dunk contest and, of course, winning it all.
Now, technically, I do want to point out that he is on a two-way contract.
Yes, he did get called up. Yeah.
And he did technically get called up. Now, the question remains as to... after winning the slam dunk contest, and he just got traded, so he's with the 76ers now, I would find it very hard to think that the 76ers were not going to ride that and at least have him up for the next couple of games.
You have to. There's no way. I'm sorry.
You have to.
You absolutely have to because, it's the Sixers. They got roster spots. Okay. They got some roster spots. They're a great team, an amazing basketball team. They got roster spots. And I don't know how you don't, even if it's strictly from a PR perspective and just ride the momentum of the name. Now, granted, there's a lot of people, for those of you that don't know, go look up this kid's high school highlights. There's a reason that they called him up. They knew what he could do. This kid has been jumping out of a gym since he was a junior in high school. That's what got him to where he is, was his dunking ability. It was never his court vision. It was never his 3-point percentage. It was the dude can hop.
Yes.
And so that's what got him to the G League. That's what got him there. But just like with Linsanity, a little different because Linsanity was going on in the games and he was putting up points.
Yeah.
You do have to ride, I think, that momentum, especially when you've got this guy on $100,000 minimum, low end two-way contract.
And I want to say he's the shortest guy to win the slam dunk contest since Spud Webb.
He is, yes.
Which is unique considering his jumping ability. But I would say Philly's got to have him up at least for the first home game back after the All-Star break, if only just to honor the win in the slam dunk contest. And that would be not, you don't have to make him a starter. You don't have to put him in, but I mean, it would be cool if they did. You start him, you let him play a couple minutes, and you pull him out, and then send the normal guy back in. But they got to do something, because this is one of those things. And if you I'm watching his card prices.
Oh my god, that's what I wanted to ask you about, man.
That is absolutely insane.
Yes.
And
Prism draft picks being his only stuff you could get.
Yeah, and Prism draft, it literally sitting on the shelves in stores, not selling, not doing anything. It's like literally just sitting there.
It's clearance at retail.
Yeah, well, not anymore.
Not anymore,
because I decided, my son had the day off of school yesterday. I decided to take a run over to Walmart with him, and there was not a single box. No blasters, no nothing, no hanger pack, nothing of Prism Draft basketball there anymore. And everybody is out looking for his stuff. And it's absolutely insane what, like, even before the slam dunk contest started, his stuff went from, I think, he had autos that were selling for like $40 or something like that. I mean, which is still high for a guy who,
for a Prism draft base, like autographs, that's a high price.
Yeah, especially since it's a guy that like can't do anything other than dunk.
Right.
And you've got him selling like $40, but they jumped. They were going for like, the base autos were going for like $300 by the time the slam dunk contest got over. And I mean, some of the color and numbered autos, and even just the non-autos, the colored prisms and stuff like that, were just going for ridiculous amounts of money.
Yeah.
Actually, he's got a hoops auto.
Yes,
that was a big one. He's in hoops. So he's got autos in there, and those were selling like $150 or something like that before the slam dunk contest was going on, and they were up to like $500 or $600, something ridiculous like that by the time it got done.
But do you think he's remembered now as, like, in 10 years, as we look through and we go back through the dunk contest? I can kind of see where they're coming from. If you're buying it to resell it at a higher price, you're nuts, because they aren't ever going to get higher than they are now. But I could see them kind of hanging and staying there a little bit because of the amount of collectors that are basketball fans that follow these cult players. You've seen cult players in the past maintain some value, and he does have that run since high school of being this iconic dunker. Obviously, he's a small white dude, so that helps as well.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
I honestly think so. Here's my thing. I think they're going to crash compared to where they are now. They're absolutely going to crash, but I think they're going to come down. There's still going to be collectors that are going to be going after his stuff. The real question is going to be, how many cards is he actually going to have? And
because you did see, if you look at Jeff Hoffer's account, he did sit down with Panini this weekend.
Yeah.
And you know what that means.
So the question is, long term, how many cards is he actually going to have? And if the answer is, well, he's not really going to have many more after this. Although I find it hard for Panini not to include him in certain sets going forward. Yes. And if he's not planned to be in Prism already, I guarantee you he's going to have a Prism update card that comes out in Chronicles.
They had him. They had pictures of him at a booth that had nothing but the word Prism all over it. So I'm assuming in some way, shape, or form, you've got to have him in Prism.
Yeah, I think they're probably going to put him in National Treasures. They might do something in Flawless. Who knows? Just a short print run or something like that. Mm-hmm. But aside from that, I don't think he's going to have much over the years, because I don't see this guy having a really long career.
No.
Now, I think he is actually a better fit to show up in Goodwin or Allen and Ginter.
Yeah.
One of those types of products where it's like, okay, now we can really celebrate his dunking ability.
Mm-hmm.
Because I guarantee you that aside from this win in the slam dunk contest this year, he is not going to be celebrated at all for his playing ability.
Right. No.
Yeah, this is a guy who maybe has a year or two in the league at the most.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you see him on minimum contracts as a novelty. And then he's going to become halftime entertainment for some team. He's going to come out and do crazy dunks at halftime just to, to get the fans going
right.
or provide some entertainment. And that is it.
Yeah.
That's all you're going to see. Unless he winds up with the Harlem Globetrotters.
Yeah, that could happen as well. And that's one thing I wanted to ask you. What do you think about, and what does it say about All-Star Weekend, that in order to get all of this hype going, now granted, I do think if you didn't have him in it, if you watched Trey Murphy, who I actually texted you before
you said Trey's going to be on fire, he's going to win the slam dunk contest.
Yeah, I thought he would. And had Matt McClung not been in there, he easily would have. The dude did some insane stuff. But what does it say when you've got to call up someone who it seems like almost signed a two-way contract so he was an NBA player so he could be in the dunk contest from the G League?
Really, I mean, I look at it in a couple of different ways. In one way, I don't think he belonged because he's not. I mean, look, let's be honest. He's a G League player.
Right.
And frankly, I think the only reason he's got a G League contract is because he can dunk.
Oh, 100.
I don't think he belonged there on one hand. But on the other hand, if I'm looking at it from the NBA's point of view, I think the marketing behind it was absolutely on point.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a genius move from a marketing standpoint for the NBA to have him there. Now, the real question, and this is where I'm kind of going off, just way off base here, is how many other guys out there that are not NBA players that there's a bunch of them out there that are just absolutely monsters when it comes to dunking.
Yeah.
How many of these guys are going to get looked at by teams now and be like, well, let's sign this guy to a two-way contract and we'll throw him in. And that's my fear, is because you wind up having a slam dunk contest that is just all non-NBA players. What they really should do is you have the NBA players in one slam dunk contest, and then you have an amateur division.
Yeah, like a futures game. Just make it a future slam dunk.
Exactly. And then you take the winner of the amateur tournament, who gets their own trophy and gets to be the champion of the amateur, and put them up one-on-one against the winner of the NBA slam dunk contest to determine, just as an exhibition. Like the NBA guy already won the NBA slam dunk contest. Yeah. The amateur guy already won the amateur contest. Let's see who's better. And that's,
I like
and
that
just
idea. The only problem is I think that would dissuade even more professionals and even more all-stars from doing the dunk contest, because God forbid they win the NBA and then lose to a G Leaguer. Because you're already seeing the best dunkers in the league. I'm sorry, they're sitting these out. They're not doing it. The guys that can truly do probably some of the craziest shit we've ever seen in our life aren't going to touch the dunk contest floor.
No, but the reason they're doing that is not because they're scared of losing. It's because they don't want to get hurt.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, that's the one thing where, the 3-point contest, you got a slight chance of injury or whatever, you get worn out or whatever. But the dunk contest.
Yeah, when you're dunking over two people and doing all this.
Yeah. I mean, plus dunking in general, you run the risk, if you're not doing it right, you run the risk of, hurting your hand, hurting your wrist, your arm, that kind of stuff, and potentially your feet, depending on how you land.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different than some of the other contests. So I kind of understand why, some of these guys don't want to do it. And I get it. It's the same reason that guys don't want to play defense in the freaking All-Star game. There's a reason that you saw Michael Jordan only do a couple of slam dunk contests and then be done.
Yep.
And, there's a reason you don't see LeBron doing slam dunk. Well, I mean, LeBron's not really a flashy dunker anyway.
He can be. He
could
can
be, but he's not, he's really not. He's just a drive the lane and shove the ball in the hoop.
Right.
Same thing like Shaquille O'Neal. Yeah. Same concept.
Yeah, just it's more viciousness, less beauty, so to speak.
Yeah, it's more power, less finesse.
Yeah,
and it's just that's the reason you don't see those guys doing it, is because they just don't want to get hurt. But that's something to think about.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's a lot I think they need to think about in terms of All-Star Weekend, especially in terms of, at least when I look at it from a hobby perspective, as to how to make I don't know, something has got to change with all this. And I don't have the answer right now, and we don't need to fix it right now. But the NBA needs to do something.
No, dude, we need to fix this right now. We need to provide the answers. You and I need to get David Silver on the phone and sit him down at, tape him to a chair and be like, look, you're going to fucking listen to us because this is what the league needs.
Well,
two short white guys, are going to tell you exactly what the NBA is going to benefit from.
Hey, well, a short white dude just dominated the dunk contest, so who knows?
All right, that's a good point. Maybe we'll bring McClung with us, and
there you go.
We'll let him do the talking, and you and I'll just hold David Silver in the chair while he listens.
Well, that could easily be done, but something definitely does need to change because, like I said, my biggest thing is looking at this again from a card standpoint and from a long-term collectability standpoint. The All-Star Game. I mean, I always look back at Vince Carter. Vince Carter was an amazing basketball player, great All-Star. The dunk contest took him to new heights that he has lived on since then. The dunk contest, when he did his arm into the goal, the first time that was done, that elevated his stature so much that, yes, he went on to have, Vince Carter, amazing basketball player, Hall of Famer, hands down. But in the collectability world, in the outside of your diehard basketball purist, that elevated him to a new level.
Yeah,
I don't see the NBA doing that now, and that's gonna hurt these future players, these Trey Murphys, these guys like this in their card market long term. I think if because the All-Star Game used to have that push you forward type of feel. It did elevate people to some extent. Now you are seeing Jaylen Brown's cards go up. You're seeing Jason Tatum rise. You're seeing Lillard rise for winning a 3-point.
Tatum
but
was
those
rising.
Are all guys.
Tatum was rising before
that I think
the
were
All-Star
undervalued
game,
to begin with.
Yeah, but Tatum was up before the All-Star game when he went on that run of 50-point games, and he just had he's playing really well. And you could see he's dialed in. So that, the All-Star game, I don't think had anything really to do with.
And that's kind of my point. Is that they need to change. Something needs to change to where this stuff is viewed as more of a, they're taking the week off. We'll see them Thursday. Whoever wins, it's whatever. I'd like some sort of, I don't know. I would like it to have some sort of prestige back into it.
And you know what? Maybe that's one of those things, because I know the league has problems with, the whole load management crap. Maybe it's one of those things where, they say, all right, well, if we don't feel that you're at least trying to play a real game, then, we'll do something, to you or whatever. And then next thing you know, you're going to wind up having a bunch of guys like twisting ankles in the last game before the All-Star game and, having to get substitutes.
Yeah.
So I'm not entirely sure what the fix is for that, other than getting rid of the game altogether. You name your All-Stars.
Yep.
And then instead of maybe that is where you bring in the Hall of Fame game.
Mm-hmm.
Is you have the All-Stars that are like, you have to show up.
Yeah, you actually have to be there.
We're going to honor you for being an all-star, but then, hey, here's Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Kareem, and all those other guys.
Cool relics.
They're going to come out and play a game.
And talk about some cool relics for your high-end products where you see those All-Star Game jerseys, the game-used patches and stuff in, if you had a Hall of Famers game. You would have game-used All-Star Game type of stuff from those legends to put in other products. So it trickles down to the hobby and gives what would be an insanely cool chase set. I guarantee you, if they had a Hall of Famer type of game.
And that would be, I think that would be something that you would see in National Treasures or Flawless only.
Yes.
But then you run across a problem because, you wouldn't have the Michael Jordan cards.
Right.
Because he is He's an Upper Deck
Upper Deck
exclusive.
only.
You could have relics. You just
Yeah.
couldn't have it. They couldn't be signed, and
Mhm.
you can't put his picture on it.
Right.
In fact, I don't even think you can put his. I don't know if you can. Yeah, I guess you can put his name on it because Leaf does some relics every now and again where it's got his name, but it doesn't have his picture or anything like that. But I mean, you'd still have all the other guys that still, could potentially.
You could pull a John Cena. You just can't see him. No.
Yeah. So, but no, that would be cool, and I could totally see that being an NT or flawless insert, or
Yeah.
you can do cards for it for as an insert set for Prism or something like that.
Yeah.
But
it'll be interesting to see where they go from here. But All-Star game this weekend, quite interesting. Made a new superstar overnight, quote unquote, at least from a dunking standpoint. I don't buy that whatsoever, but I am interested to see where McClung goes from here. One thing I thought was cool was that his career earnings were $100,000 and he got $100,000 for winning the dunk contest.
Yeah.
Needless to say, that man's bills can be paid.
Unlike ours, which need to be paid.
That's true. So we'll be right back.
All right, and we are back. The wallet is full
Bills
for the moment.
paid.
And we got some stuff we probably could have talked about last week. But let's talk about Series 1.
Well, I think we have to. I mean, it's a phenomenon right now.
Well, it's a phenomenon overall. I mean, Series 1 is one of those products that, everybody is all hyped about because you've got the rookies that didn't make it into update.
Yeah,
that are Series 1 that are always, and usually, it really depends on how strong the rookie class is that's in the product, and this year happens to be unusually strong.
Yes, very.
You have a new design, which I absolutely love.
I agree.
You
With
have
one exception I'll touch on in a minute.
And yeah, we'll get to that in a second. You have new inserts. You have new short prints.
Yes.
Which is really I think is really driving things, quite a bit. And I think part of that is not so much the fact that the short prints are there. I think part of it is because Blowout put this $250,000 bounty on the first person to bring him a complete set of all 330 short prints. And I think this is actually the first time that Topps has done short prints of all 330.
It is. That's the new golden mirror image variations.
Yep. And it's leading people to do some crazy, crazy things.
Oh, yeah.
Like buying up 300 cases of Jumbo.
Yeah, the guys over at Uncommon and Real Breaks doing some insanity chasing that set. It's been amazing watching that go down.
And if you think about it, though, from a monetary standpoint, if they can pull it off, it's actually genius because they've probably spent like 225, 230 grand just on the cases. And that once you finish the set, I don't think anybody's going to beat them to it.
No,
unless there's somebody who is doing it behind the scenes, not publicly, and stuff like that. But I think they're going to wind up getting it. So that's going to bring them the 250 grand back. All right, so you're immediately profitable on that. But then you've got all the cards that you've pulled, all the autos, all of the the relics, the short prints, the numbered stuff. You're going to be able to sell.
I think they said over the weekend they sold I think it was a couple hundred cards. It might have been a little over 1,000, but they sold, I think it was like maybe 1,200 cards for around $38,000 that weren't in their set. It's been really cool watching them document it and do everything while they're doing it. A lot of people complaining and crying because, well, it's the internet for no reason. I actually think this stuff is amazingly cool to watch them chase after it. But the blowout bounty is interesting because they've got the 250 that you said for Series 1.
Yep.
But then they've got the bigger bounty.
Well, hold on. Let's get to that. Let's get to that in a second, though, because they've got a $250,000 bounty for Series 1, the short prints. They've got a $250,000 bounty for Series 2 short print set, and another $250,000 bounty for the update short print set. 330 cards, of each one.
Yeah.
Then on top of that, they've got what you were just about to bring up, which is
$1 million bounty if you get Series 1, 2, and Update all graded a PSA 10.
Now that is I just want to point out that is 990 cards.
Yeah.
Now, here's what I would love to see. I would love to see this.
All right, I'm ready.
I would love to see an update.
Mm-hmm.
Topps only do 329
right
short prints and not tell anybody that they didn't do one. That's it. That's what I want to see.
Honestly, with the way they've been printing and stamping serial numbers lately, they could accidentally do it and we'd have no idea.
Well, but I think if they accidentally do it, they would have to come out and say, "Hey, we accidentally didn't do this" or whatever. So, but I think it would be absolutely hilarious to see them do it and like intentionally and just like literally not tell anybody. Don't publish an update on it, or maybe like a year from now, be like, once a year after the product's out, just finally admit it and be like, "Oh, yeah, no, we just didn't do, we didn't do a short print on the rookie debut for Gunnar Henderson."
Yeah.
Something stupid like that, or we didn't do what another it would be like some random guy.
Yeah, Whit Merrifield.
Exactly, or Luis Arias or something like that. That like, oh no, we didn't do it for him. I think that would be hilarious.
Yeah.
And I think because people would continue to open the product and keep opening product until or you only make one of them.
Right.
Just don't print them. Don't. It's not like a crazy short print. It's like, hey, we're just gonna make one of this Whit Merrifield short print, and see what happens when somebody starts chasing it. And now all of a sudden, the guy that pulls it, it's gonna become like what should be like a $30 card is probably gonna be like $20,000 or something ridiculous like that. But they got to do stuff like that just to kind of throw people off, especially when guys are chasing that PSA 10 bounty.
Yeah. So with those bounties, how much influence? I mean, Blowouts put out bounties before. We all remember. I think the first one that was a big deal was the Zion logo, man. When that was announced, I think that was really when the whole bounty thing started to kick off. Blowouts, no stranger to doing other ones. How much of an influence do you think Topps had on this?
I don't know.
That's what I was hearing.
Now here's my thing with this. Topps doesn't necessarily have an incentive to contribute to the bounty amount or anything like that because the product's already sold. Topps has gotten their money already. They're the stuff that they sell direct, the stuff that they sell through distributors and things like that. That's all sold. Topps isn't getting any additional money from stuff that gets bought right now from Series 1. So I'm not entirely sure how much influence they have in that. I do know that they, and this was interesting to see this again. They partnered with SGC again for $9 grading for Series 1 cards.
Yep.
And look, we all know that the flagship products have a ridiculous print run. We all know that the rookie class in Series 1 is so good that you're going to see a flood of base, and stuff like that come in on that. But aside from that, I don't know. I don't think they had any influence in this. I think this is Fish basically saying, hey, I want to have a set of this because it's, I know it's going to increase in value over the next year or so. And hey, I want all 990 cards for this because I know I'll be able to flip it for like $2 million, a couple years from now. That's where I think is really driving this. But also I'm curious, and we're never going to know this because they're a private company, is because of the bounty, how much in additional sales is Blowout doing?
Yes.
From through their own distribution channels, through their own website and things like that. How much of the product is actually coming from them? Because I did notice that jumbo prices started off at about $150 a box when the product got released, and within a week, they're sitting at like $225, $250. But I don't know how much of that has to do with the bounty versus how much has to do with that, people are realizing that the jumbos are loaded.
Yeah, the jumbos do seem to be crazy loaded this year.
And I'll tell you, I've done for 2023 Topps, I have ripped one jumbo box, and that is it.
Mhm.
And after going through the box, I thought I got killed.
Right.
Like, I'm absolutely destroyed. The auto I pulled out of it was the 88 retro auto base of Corbin Carroll.
Ah.
And I'm like, okay, liquor, and it's fine. Look, I'm not up on Corbin Carroll that much, but like, sold for $175.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, so maybe I'm not as screwed as I thought I was. But it's one of those things. It's like, the other stuff there, a lot of the gold foil parallels that are in there are selling for, $25-$30 for some of the rookies. And it's been a solid product compared to what you're getting out of hobby. If you notice, the hobby box prices have not jumped
right
like the jumbo has.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen a lot of stuff coming out of blasters or hangers.
Now, have those all hit shelves yet across the country?
Blasters have. I don't know about hangers, but don't forget, if you believe everything you hear in all these Facebook groups and things like that, remember, hangers are bangers, man.
Hangers are bangers.
But I had all the monster stuff seems to be coming out of jumbo.
No, it does. I've seen some huge hits from it. I do want to touch on one thing. You'd said how you love the design. I like this year's design too. I like the way they did the parallels, except for one. And it's the one parallel that used to be my favorite and has now become my least favorite. And that's the Independence Day parallel. Those parallels used to be the coolest looking cards that Topps put out every year when they did the flag design behind them, back when they didn't have a full border. As soon as they went back to a full border design, they went just to regular old red stars.
Yeah, I loved them up through 2019.
Right. Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. Scratch that. I think 2020 was actually good too. It was 2021.
Right.
Which is where they
gave up.
They gave up. They jumped the shark.
And those used to hold, like, if you look at the sales from the previous years, like 2017, 2018, if you look at the sales of those compared to maybe the black out of 50, they would sell for more than the lower numbered stuff. The Independence Day parallels because of their look. And
well, I thought black was out. No, black is out of like 67 or 68.
Yeah, well, you know what I mean. The lower number
pinks
parallels,
and the blues. Yeah, the Mother's Day pink and the Father's Day blue. Those are both out of 50.
Yeah, okay. So those, you'd see the Independents go for more. And I just think with baseball, America's, pastime, yada yada.
Well, it's the only one of the big four major sports that's actually playing during Independence Day.
Right. So that's my point. I would like them to celebrate that a little more. And I hate how they have phoned in what was at one time, out of pick any set, I don't care what it is, one of my favorite parallels every year was to see how they were going to do the Independence Day design. And within a couple of years, they destroyed it. That's my one critique on it. I was hoping this year they get back to something different, but no, we got red stars on a white border, and that's it.
What they really need to do is pull the Independence Day parallel out of the normal set and do it as an insert.
Yeah,
where not only do you have the Independence Day design on the card, but all of the major league teams usually do some tweaks to their uniforms. Sometimes the hat, sometimes it's the full uniform, things like that. Make it an insert set where each card is numbered to 76 and have it not only with the Independence Day design, but also have it with the Independence Day uniforms, from that weekend that they wear. That would be, I think that would be the better way to do it.
Yeah. I agree.
Just to kind of give it an added bonus.
No, I agree. I think that's something that I hope that they tweak and change in the future. It just seems as soon as they went back to full border completely, they gave up.
Yeah, that sounds that sounds about right.
But it has, Series 1, it's always right after the Super Bowl or right around the Super Bowl. It's also right. It signals the start of baseball season for most baseball collectors. Series 1 is pretty massive, but we talked about it earlier. In addition to the bounties, you're seeing Times Square advertising. You're seeing massive trade nights hosted by whether it be Bleecker or somebody else that are sponsored by Topps, that are having special celebrity guests come in and all this type of stuff. I mean, that the marketing push for this has been amazing, and it's surprisingly, Series 1 is normally, okay, it's out, there's a couple breaks, and then, all right, we know it's going to be on the shelves, let's move on to something else outside of the diehards. This year feels like Series 1 could have a little more staying power.
Well, I think part of that is, most products are driven by the rookie class.
Right.
And this product reminds me a lot of 2018 update.
Yeah.
2019 Series 2.
Mm-hmm.
Where you just have an absolutely solid run of like 5 or 6 really good rookies. And I honestly think 2020 Series 1 started off that way too, with Bichette and Nico Horner and trying to remember who else was in there. Jordan Alvarez, was in there too. And it's like, those have kind of fallen off. So it's, I don't know. I just kind of that when I'm not going to include that in this, but it was kind of like that at the beginning. But this one, I think, with the autos that they have in there, at least the ones that are not serial number 200 out of 199, in addition to the solid relic, solid veteran and, retired player autos that they have in there. I think it's in addition to the parallels and the, base rookies, now the short prints across the entire set. Yeah. I think it's going to be one of those products that has long-term staying power.
The golden mirror short prints, I think it's going to be interesting to look back on this in a couple of years and see how that helps this product, because it's certainly commanded an astounding amount of hype right out of the gate. I want to see, how it's looked at in a couple of years. I'm excited for that.
Well, my favorite thing that they've done with it, with the gold mirror short prints, is the fact that you don't have to sit there and look at those tiny little codes with a magnifying glass. Not only is the Topps logo gold on the front, but you also have a giant SSP right next to the card number on the back. And it's like, thank God. Why didn't you do this years ago?
Yes.
I can't tell you how much damage I've done to my eyes trying to strain looking at codes if I'm sitting there ripping in the car and things like that. They really need to do that, like they started doing with Heritage a while ago,
right?
Where they would underneath the card number they would put like error or action or so like, hey, just do that. Make it easier for all of us to identify,
especially with so many new people and with a flagship product like Topps Series 1, which is literally meant to pull new people into the hobby, an affordable entryway into the hobby. Like, let those people know that they're getting something. How many people bought blasters, got into the hobby, probably thought they pulled nothing, and are sitting on a Julio short print, a Wander short print, a Tatis short print, all that stuff, and just had no clue because, well, why would I look at the little codes on the back?
Yeah, exactly. You'd like to think that with, the hobby being what it is and, all the different groups and chat rooms and all that kind of stuff that are out there that, somebody would be able to look it up and, and realize it even if they're new. But at the same time,
but the thing people tend to not realize is that the online aspect of the hobby, while it's big, it's so far from all of it. I mean, when I go to I'm headed down to Orlando for Collecticon this weekend, we're going to take in so many people's cards that are new to the hobby, just getting back in, that don't deal with the social media side of it.
Yeah.
At all. They're like, oh, shoot, we saw a card show. Hey, we've been buying some stuff at Walmart the last year or at our local card show or LCS for the last year. Let's drop them off. And so there's so many people that aren't involved in the social media aspect that probably, honestly, aren't even going to think to look at it. So, making a change like that, I think, is brilliant. Not only for us older guys that don't want to squint at 80,000 different little codes, but also the new people getting into the hobby that don't know that they're supposed to look at 140974628.
Yep, exactly. And don't you don't have to focus on the whole thing. You can just look at the last 3 digits, or sometimes even the last 2 digits.
Yeah.
But they're still so small that even with perfect vision, you got to sit there and be like, your eyes are kind of bugging out after a while.
Oh yeah, those 7s turn to 8s and 9s quick, man.
Oh, 7s and 1s turn.
Yes.
It's like or 0s and 8s. All tend to lump together, or 6s and 8s is usually usually where I get thrown off after like an hour looking. But I love the fact that they did that, and I think they really need to keep that up with with everything else as well.
Yeah, I agree. And once again, like you said, I love the SGC partnership. Once again, I'm going to be really interested to see how that works out with the grading, because the early returns, I did see something on Instagram. I want to credit the right people, so I'm not going to say exactly who it was at this time, but I did see how many more Bowman cards have been graded by SGC than by PSA and Beckett, and the numbers were astounding. And I'm going to be interested to see with Series 1, because once again, you drop it down to that low level, and that's absolutely awesome. I don't know how Peter and SGC keep snagging these away from CSG, but I know they're pissed, and SGC's reaping the rewards for it.
Yeah, and you know what? I have an answer to that. I really do, and it's the same answer that I typically have for everybody else. Drugs.
Yeah.
No, it's really not in this case. But you'll be able to keep an eye on it firsthand, because I believe they're going to be a Collecticon this weekend as well.
They will.
Which is I think it's the first show outside of the National that they're going to be set up at taking in submissions. So you'll get a good idea. Just, if you're walking around and stop off, you can check it out and report back to me over the weekend and be like, yeah, this is what they're doing. And this is, the lines were ridiculous, or they weren't existent. Hey,
I might be ripping some and dropping them off. I don't know. I'll tell you right now, if I pull something nice, it's definitely going to SGC.
Yeah. But, I think that pretty much covers everything with Series 1. I am curious to see if the guys at Uncommon are going to be doing the same thing with Series 2.
Yeah.
Trying to snag that bounty. And, I think we'll have to wait for the checklist to pop out to see whether or not it's going to be,
and Alec Burleson better be in Series 2. Damn it. Hey,
I'm shocked he wasn't in Series 1.
Opening day roster. Damn it. Come on. Put him in, Tops.
Yeah, that's up to, I was going to say, that's up to Tops, and whether or not.
Hey, if he needs to carry Series 2, I'm fine with that too.
No, but think about it. How many guys were on the opening day roster last year and didn't show up till update?
Yeah, it's true. Might be update. Might have to wait for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, great rookie class. Like you said, amazing design. But what I love more is it's always been embraced by the baseball side of the hobby as, the kickoff to this year's baseball season, the kickoff to.
Well, I think part of that is traditionally it comes out right at the same time that pitchers and catchers report to spring.
Right.
So,
but collecting wise, it's always kind of thought of as it's the first product of 2023. It's the kickoff of that 2023 collecting season. But I'm seeing a lot of people that aren't diehard baseball collectors, people that wouldn't normally rip a live Series 1, chasing Series 1. And if you can make the flagship product that in demand, hey, that's an awesome job. And I'm excited to see, especially with, like we said, circling back to the beginning with Ruben's comments about how the hobby has never really been marketed correctly. If I'm going to be interested to see how some of these products go, some of these ones that aren't thought of as the national treasures, the impeccables, all this stuff, how they're looked at, how they're collected. Because I will say this, the hype for Series 1 has been bigger than any hype I've seen in a long time. And if you look at the last couple classes we've had with Acuna, Soto, Tatis, I pick a year, had so many amazing people. It's pretty awesome and incredible to see.
Yeah, I would agree. And it's amazing to see how far that the hobby has come, because, cards started off as an afterthought inserted into packs of cigarettes. And then, Topps wasn't even a baseball card company. They were a gum company. Their goal was not to sell baseball cards. It was to sell gum.
Yeah.
And, it brought us some of the most iconic cards in the hobby. And I I think Michael Rubin is absolutely right. Is that it's really not being, it hasn't been marketed properly to the right people ever.
Yeah.
And I think they're finally starting to figure that out.
Yeah. And I mean, hey, that's an exciting thing to see where that can go, because there are a lot of people that, you know, have no idea, or probably just haven't been reintroduced to it or introduced to it yet. Yeah. And if it grabs people, that's going to be awesome. But you've definitely seen a very different push with everything coming out with Series 1. Bowman U also dropping with some first license stuff, a lot of new stuff coming out. So it's going to be fun to watch this new marketing campaign and see exactly, you know, what it can do. But Series 1 taking the hobby by storm. I don't know if you guys are chasing that $250,000 bounty, but the guys over at Real Breaks and the Uncommon app, they're going to fight you for it. That much I can tell you. But Scott, I think that's probably about it this week. What do you think?
I think it's a good time to wrap things up and save whatever we had left for next week.
I agree. And guys, once again, if you are in the Orlando area this weekend, or if you live in South Florida and want to make that short drive over to Orlando, make sure to head on over to Collecticon. It is not just TCG this year. Sports cards and everything will be a part of it. Like Scott said, SGC will be there, along with a lot of other people will be there taking in stuff at Gem Mint as well. But guys, that is going to wrap up episode 177 of Let Me Get That Autograph. Once again, I'd like to thank our awesome sponsors, Show Your Slabs, Slab Strong, Vandy Slabs, Card Ladder, Treasure Hunters, and Denver Card Shows, which also, if you're in the Denver area, has a show this weekend. Couple-day show, jam-packed, around 300 tables, I believe. Very, very big show that's growing by the show. So if you're in that area and looking for an awesome show as well, make sure to check that out. As always, we will have a new episode of Let It Rip Out this week, possibly, if a box gets here in time, live from Collecticon's main stage over the weekend. So be on the lookout for that as well. And of course, Hobby Hotline every Saturday and Tuesday. But Scott, man, I know we had to take a week off because of my crazy surgery that was going to be fine, but took a week and a half. But
hey, it happened. Look, it happens, man. You never expect things to go the way that you want them to go when it comes to surgery and, you know, medical procedures and stuff like that.
Got that right. You got that right, my man. Well, you guys know the deal. Keep ripping those packs, pulling those hits. We'll be back next week. Peace.